Welcome to What Have We Learned? Incidental learnings from interesting people. I'm Ben Punter. This episode is Jennifer Tyler, who is an actress, writer and podcaster. She performed at the Edinburgh Fringe 2019 with her first solo show, Ready or Not, which only began live 4 weeks before the Fringe actually started. So we talk about that, and you can follow her on Instagram. It's Jennifer Tyler 10, and you can hear her podcast, Thank You for Sharing, on all good podcasting platforms. There'll be a summary at the end of all the things we've learned in this episode, so do let me know what you have learnt. I'd love to hear from you. I'm on Twitter at Ben Punter and on Facebook, What Have We Learnt? Here we talk about the show Ready or Not, musical comedy, writing musical comedy and mental health. And we start mid-preamble as we're talking about podcasting. But this is What Have We Learnt with Jennifer Tyler.
Because I do a podcast sporadically about mental health, and I had exactly the same thing where I'd have it in the middle and then like I'd have a moment like halfway through I'd be like, I really want to just keep engaging with this person, but I am so scared that is just not been turned on at all. And I actually say it, I go like, I'm just going to have a little moment. But yeah.
We'll just start like that, because we're talking about podcasting.
Yeah.
So when you podcast and you do interviews, do you have like a structure? Do you have like questions, or is it like free form?
When I first started doing it, I did a loose list of kind of like, where the areas I wanted to touch on, and kind of like a sort of journey of it, so that I knew that there could be somewhere to get to at the end. But I just ended up just loving the chat so much, and started interviewing friends first. I already knew them quite well and had a rapport. So the editing process on my podcasts were tough.
Okay. I started the same way. I was like, I'll just interview friends first.
Yeah.
Because it's comfortable and confident, and then also, if it's not a good interview, I won't put it out, and I only have to explain it to one person. It's a friend of mine. It was just a pilot. I told you the pilot.
Yeah.
But I've just put out the last pilot episode recently now.
Cool.
I thought like, okay, they'll do, and now I'm like, okay, now we need actual guests now. All right, let's get into it properly. So anyway, Jennifer Tyler.
Hello,
how are you?
I'm very well. How are you doing?
I'm good. I'm damp.
Yes.
We are in this is probably the most glamorous location I've done this in so far.
Really?
I think so.
Oh, the view.
Yeah. And also we're in the Royal Festival Hall.
Royal.
Yeah.
We went there. Yeah, we did.
The plan, hopefully, maybe in like a year's time, 2 or 3 years' time, I'm back here again, but I'm actually in the venue. That would be pretty cool.
You've said it. You've put it out. We're going to manifest it. Yeah, it's going to happen.
And then me in 2 or 3 years, will clip this bit and they'll play it on the big screen.
And then can I pop out of the audience like no one knows I'm there? I'm like, hey, I was there at the beginning.
It's the reunion. So let me get some questions, because I wrote questions.
Cool. Question time.
Questions. The podcast is called What We Learned. And it's just basically talking, because I want to go back to the old style form of just talking to people about who they are, what they do.
Brilliant. And do you know what? This is actually super useful, because I don't know if you've done Edinburgh before, because we're talking about an Edinburgh show post Edinburgh, and I haven't allowed myself much space to reflect on it. I think you get in quite a big mindset of very present, very forward thinking, what I'm doing today, tomorrow. That this is going to be really nice, hopefully. To just be like, to think back to the very beginning, which wasn't that long before.
No. So you kind of see yourself in kind of an Edinburgh bubble.
Yes.
Of like, I don't need to, like, not right now. I'm busy doing an Edinburgh Fringe show.
Yeah.
So obviously you performed at Edinburgh Fringe this year, 2019, with Ready or Not.
Yeah.
For those who don't know or missed it, what was it about?
It was about basically, it was kind of, semi-autobiographical show. I am somebody that likes to be really ready for things. I, used to pride myself on doing, all the work, all the prep I could possibly do for something to get ready to then bounce into action. And basically got the opportunity to create a show for the Edinburgh Fringe about a month before it started, and therefore my producer and I thought, well, why don't we tailor this show? Why don't we make the show about letting go of that a little bit, and that experience of actually diving in the deep end with something. Our favourite comedians kind of pride themselves on, feeling the fear and doing it anyway. And I, realised in that moment I had this backlog of kind of comedy songs I'd been writing for years, and we basically just set ourselves this challenge to do, this ridiculous challenge of, can we make a show about this experience in a month? and then present it to the world and hopefully have a kind of ripple effect of inspiring people to do the same.
And so is the show kind of now all done and dusted, or is there like second chances to see it, or is it that's it?
We would love to do it again. I think especially because we made it in such a short space of time and we got lovely responses, so fingers crossed we will, we're in talks about maybe doing it in London, maybe taking it rural touring because it's quite small and minimal to take around. So fingers crossed this isn't the end.
And you mentioned about writing comedy songs. How long have you been in that for?
So quite a while, but never showing anyone.
Oh, okay. Is there particular people who sort of inspire you in that way? Are you a particular type of comedy songwriter?
Well, no, one particular inspiration is Rachel Bloom. I don't know if you know her. She wrote Crazy Ex-Girlfriend. Yes, and is the star of it. Huge inspiration. So I saw that television show and fell in love with it, and it also addresses lots of issues that I'm interested in, like mental health, and just being a human being, and just go and making kind of satirical songs, like taking a song and kind of spoofing it and doing kind of showing a darker side to it. So I'd funnily enough, so basically the show trails back to kind of the initial stages of me writing these songs, and it was actually during a difficult period in my mental health. I found myself in like kind of seeking to find something to make me feel like a bit calmer, or just get out of a kind of anxious or depressed funk. I started writing like silly songs, and it had a really big effect on me, and so I just kept doing it like privately, just about things that I found funny or was interested in. And then just before we got this opportunity, I had started working with my friend, a musician, to build backing tracks. So having had a session just before we got this kind of window of like, should we make a show, I was like, I think we can do it. I think we could make these songs into actual big songs and do it.
So were the songs sort of, were they parodies, or were they sort of the originals and then sort of adapted into lyrics, or adapted into songs from either the music or the lyrics?
Yeah, that's a really good question. Like, we kind of Dom Martin, who's an incredible musician and dear friend, I'd come to him with these lyrics that were, and I'd always have kind of like inspiration songs, like for example, there's one about so that I have a kind of, I don't know if you've heard about it, I have a bodily function section in my show.
Well, the first time I saw you was at the Guilty Feminist.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So
yeah,
it was like,
course,
I think it was it the song you did there, or was that
I
you
did
mentioned
it,
about
yeah.
You promoted it there as well?
Yes, that was a kind of Celine Dion, so that was about weeing, specifically about this kind of like readiness of like what my mother taught me, like the wisest advice like that's lingered with me that I use every day is that if you've got the opportunity to wee. Have you been for a wee? Did you go for a wee before this interview?
I did at home.
Okay. Everyone's bladders are different.
Yeah, that's a song that's a song title in itself.
Everybody's bladders are different. Exactly. So and so basically, then Dom and I would kind of go back to kind of I get these weird tunes in my head, and then we go back to kind of inspiration songs, and then we'll always try and build the melody different. We'll not do the exact, like I used to do that, and I do love doing that, like taking an existing melody and changing the lyrics to make it funny, but we try to make these all original with like mainly 90s pop inspirations.
Okay, there's a question I have, but I don't know how to phrase it. I don't know I've got the pieces of the question.
Let's build that jigsaw. Let's do it.
So it's about mental health and songwriting and how it all falls together, and how it does one equal the other, or does one repair the other?
It's so different. Everybody's mental health journey is completely unique to them, and mine just happened to end up being kind of a love letter to music and dancing and singing and songwriting. Like, I think there's a song in it called Dancing Animal, which is kind of a spoof of Dancing Queen, whereas I find Dancing Queen quite funny because it's all like do 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 do, and mine's like, yeah, I'm a fucking dancing animal, because that is what I'm like on the dance floor. And and it just so happened that I think I could, by doing this show and writing it, I was able to trace back that dancing was kind of a release for all these kind of like thoughts and energies and feelings I didn't have any sort of emotional vocabulary for back then when I was a child, and when mental health wasn't as much talked about as it is now. So mine happened to have a correlation, and I hope that everybody it, like, maybe seeing the show, maybe people are able to go, you know, if they have things that they know kind of soothes them, if they are going through something difficult with their mental health, like leaning into that, whatever it may be, and it might be creative.
Like a go-to place for to soothe their soul.
I think creativity.
Yeah. And so with only 4 weeks to put a show together, did you ever get to do things like a work in progress, or is it like you've no time? We've got no time to do one of these.
We had no time. All we had. So tracing back, the first thing I did was sit down with my producer, and we got loads of post-it notes, and we, like, all the songs I had, even though the backing tracks weren't written or anything, what I was still planning on writing and how we could trace that into a journey of a show. We then did loads of redrafting, had amazing dramaturgy from my director, Catherine Armitage, who I've worked with loads, she's incredible, and Rachel, and then Dom working on the tracks. And what we had time for was one very small private showing of with a few friends, close friends, brilliant people, talents in their own right, and with a script in hand, throwing pages everywhere I go. But again, like, every bit of the journey for me was, like, so helpful, because I didn't have time to get afraid in a way that I probably would have used to. It's like, and I've never done a one-person show before either. The longest I've done is, like, kind of maybe comparing for like a 20-minute comedy thing, like, so all of it was a bit out of my comfort zone, but having a good team around you is key. And I think so we had that time, but no, our first show, we'd still rewritten it from then. We hadn't had general public responses at all, so that was quite nerve-wracking.
Was there any rewrites from the first Edinburgh show, as in, like, it was in July, so it started in July.
Yeah, we did. It was
a bit of an odd one this year.
Yeah.
So from that first show in July, actually at the Edinburgh Fringe, how many changes were then made between the first show and the last show at the end?
So I think I don't know if it's the same for everyone. That first week is key, I think, like, because you get this opportunity of previews, and my director was up with us for that first week as well. So I'd say the main changes. We rewrote the first song. No, we didn't. We rewrote the first song between that initial preview and the opening night, which was about a week. And then from the first preview to that Sunday, which is when The Guilty Feminist was, actually.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
So I think it was about then. But then, actually, like, through the month, there would be occasions where I'd turn to Rach and I'd be like, when I say that line, it's not really fit. And we'd just be like, change it. Yeah. I guess when you're doing a one-person show as well, it's quite easy to change things as you go. Although we had ended up, again, we ended up having so many tech cues, which was just ridiculous when you think about it, of, like, why would you do that to yourself? But Rachel, my sensational producer, opted the show as well. And I actually wrote her into it. So she was basically a part of it.
You got the opportunity to do the show 4 weeks before?
4 weeks before, yeah.
What led up to that opportunity? What were you doing? Were you in?
What was I doing? So what had helped, actually, is I in January did my short play debut. So I've been writing since university, but I've just kind of dabbled. So I was on the stand-up scene. I did that for quite a long time, character comedy. And then I just kind of go, run away from that. Like I would, and then I dabble somewhere else, like, no, did it. And I was starting to feel really frustrated. And I was like, I was starting to, my mental health had gone through a dip. I was writing all these comedy songs. I was also writing, like, short plays. And I just thought, I've got to get to the stage of sharing them at some point. And my dear friend Sean Kitchener, who's amazing, runs a night called Briefs, and I did a short play in January with some friends, and it went really well, and I had so much fun, and I think that inspired me on. But then and after that, I teach musical theatre for Disney, education workshops, and I was just doing the old ploughing on, really, actor, writer, auditioning, trying to hustle my way into the world.
So what was the mental health blip, if you don't mind?
So it was just a period where I realised that I had been suffering with generalised anxiety for a really long time and didn't realise, and I think it just all got a bit too much. So therefore I had to kind of take a step back from everything, get some help, and just learn a bit more about my brain. And actually there is as I said, through the show we trail back to me doing that, and I actually share a song that I wrote directly after having something what's called a Pure O episode, which I don't know if you know Pure O, but it's basically where a thought enters your head that you get very stuck on, and it's a thought that you find very distressing, and it can be different for absolutely anybody. And we all get weird thoughts every day, and most people can kind of let them go. But if you have Pure O, you can get really stuck on a thought, and it can kind of overtake anything else and kind of affect your sense of self. But I'd been writing these comedy songs, and I had this moment of a thought, and I wrote a song about it, and we share that song in the show, and it's been really cathartic actually to share that and to kind of hear the different. Some of my friends didn't know I'd been suffering with that, and that, you know, for them to see that was really interesting.
So I guess it's the sensation of that internal thought, and then being able to not just say it out loud, but say it out loud to people. And
in a way to make yourself laugh. I mean, again, like not all, that doesn't always work, and it's, again, completely different for everyone else. But even, it was interesting, even the difficult times, because we all know Edinburgh Fringe is, you know, it's a marathon. It's like, there's so many ups and downs to it. And what we found was when you had those downs, when you had 3 people in and you don't know, and they're not feeling it and they're not into it, like, we actually like made a video on Instagram, my producer and she really encouraged me to laugh about it, and it just made it so much easier. And it's just interesting that comedy can kind of really heal all those, kind of help to heal all those things.
And then how many times have you been to Edinburgh?
I went once when I was 18. I turned 18 at the Fringe, and I turned 30 this year at the Fringe, and I hadn't been once since. And that was with school, and that was only for a few days, and it was incredible, and I learnt a lot, but it didn't feel, I've never done the full Edinburgh Fringe until this year.
And that, okay.
Yeah.
That's quite something.
And that's why, I guess it was kind of things, you know, again, when Rachel and I sat in front of each other and we had this moment of like, should we do this? Shall we pitch a show and see if we can get a show on? There were just too many things in my brain going, you should do this. But that doesn't mean I was also not like absolutely terrified and like, well, I have nothing at the moment. Tyler Jordan Brooks show, and he won. Which was an incredible show.
What were you? So having not been there before, and not been there for such a long time.
Yeah.
What were your expectations of it then?
So that's a good question. What were my expectations? I couldn't quite anticipate the scale of it. I mean, it's massive. But again, I think having this opportunity so quick and having to just really invest in making a show meant I didn't really have much time to. Our aims were to do the thing. It's like you said to me, you know, about doing this podcast. Like our aim was to focus on that. And you know, Rachel with her production company had the investment to make it happen, to take a risk on it. And so really, we were kind of going, how can we make sure we can have fun doing the show? Like, how can we make a show that we want to do every day? Like, that was key to me, because I think. Actually, I tell you what, quickly, I had done my podcast last year, my first episodes of my podcast, which is called Thank You for Sharing, about mental health in the industry, were all about the Fringe. So my expectations, I actually did have expectations, because I chatted to these amazing character comedians and actors. So the key thing, I'd kind of let go. I was focusing on the show, so I was kind of not thinking about it, but I also had this kind of ammo and this backup of going, I have spoken to people who have kind of prepared me that it's going to be hard, and it's going to be some of the best times of your life and some of the worst, and so I think that was key for me, taking a deep breath and going, I'm going to ride that wave.
Yeah. So when you say the worst, obviously I wouldn't want to dwell on them. But
No.
What is it? What is Edinburgh Fringe at its worst?
At its worst.
No, I'm in the same pool that I love it. I love it there, and I think it's brilliant. And I'm like, my dad wants to go again now. He's like, I found somewhere to go. Do you want to book it now? I don't know if I can afford it yet.
Well,
I want to. I don't know if I can afford it. So I'm curious to know what it's like as a performer.
Yeah.
And how low can it get? Because I don't think that's ever put out there.
Well, but we started last year, and it is. Do you know what it is? The more I read around the Fringe this year, like, you know, Lynn Gardner writes amazing articles, and there's a lot of people actually talking about it now, and more on social media, and I think I felt that swell of camaraderie and support, because I guess it's worse. You know, if you're putting on a show and you can't get audiences in the door, and then you're in a very vulnerable position to go out and to be like, please come and see my show, please come and see my show, and then and it's a constant kind of thing of like, can we do this? Can we? And I guess that's why, again, I just would stress to anybody going, like, if you surround yourself with a great team, you can get through it all. And the doing, like, trying to take away from the kind of the end product, like, the best reviews, or like, you make, or you're like, you have to, I think you have to prepare for the kind of the pitfalls and kind of go, and not feel that takes away from anything of the kind of the joy of the expression. And I hope Edinburgh, I think it's getting to the stage where it's hitting kind of breaking point in a way. I hope it, like, there's talks and, like, kind of meetings about how it can become more sustainable for artists going out there. Because, like you said, audiences love it, artists love it. We all want to see this big explosion of expression and creativity, but we just want to make sure that artists can do it in a way that's kind of sustainable both financially and emotionally. Because, but also,
because otherwise, I think the tipping point is also the number of artists going up exceeds the number of patrons going up. That's the danger. But I don't think that will happen. I don't know how many people actually visit the Fringe in that 1 month, and then also we know there's about 4,000 shows, and that's just from the website. Then you've got the free shows, which aren't ticketed, and you've got the performers. So that's so it puts it maybe somewhere in the region of 6,000. Wow. 6,000 people are there to perform, and that's growing all the time. And I think they said they released an article saying this year there's more comedians there than ever before. I think of all the acts there, I think it's gone from 35 to 40% now. It's now all comedy now. Yeah. So it's just this. It's growing and growing and growing. And how often it goes, there's too many comedians, there's not enough time to do all these people.
The way you talking about it just then makes, this has just popped into my head. I wonder if there was any way to kind of, for example, like near us, like the Brighton Fringe is kind of growing, and that's at a different time of the year. Camden Fringe happens, I think, during the same time as Edinburgh Fringe. But it would be interesting if that's true. I wonder if there'd be a way of kind of decentralizing it so that maybe that Edinburgh Fringe experience that kind of creates all this joy and this can really propel people's careers as well could be taken around the country, as it were. So like people are spending less money trying to get around the country to get to this one, but even though it's a beautiful city, Edinburgh is gorgeous, everyone should visit at some point. But I don't know, I'd just be so interested to know how this kind of celebration of the arts maybe doesn't have to become so intense in one place at one time. And could it have the same effect still on everybody's kind of purpose for doing it and joy of doing it? But the purpose, as you said, should be about doing the thing, and I've certainly learned a lot from it myself and had so much fun.
Was there anything that didn't actually make the final show? In that, even that 4 weeks, you're writing, you're performing.
Yes, there was. No, there was. There was a song about gender, which I'm really attached to, and actually my director was saying, that's the beginning of a whole other show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, in terms of kind of like my interest in gender as a kind of social construct, and kind of trying to pick it apart. I read an amazing book by Juno Dawson, all about gender, and I'm really interested in that. So that could be the announcement of 2020. But that, we had to let that go. Oh, Cheese, the Cheese Hangover song. There's a little bit of it in it. I could not let go of that one. And actually, but then you learn, because I was really sad to let that one go as well. But it's actually way funnier if it's just a snippet. And I think that's what had to be the case with us working together in a small room to go, how can these things land in a quick way? Because I remember my director saying to me, there's no way we can do this many songs in an hour. And we actually didn't cut them down as much as we could have done.
So the unfortunate truth is I didn't see the show.
It's okay. One day.
But the two friends I was with at the Guilty Feminists, they came and saw the show. And they are the people who said, you should get on the podcast.
Really?
Yeah. And
that's so lovely.
Because they are, I mean this in the nicest possible way, they're crazy in that they went to the Edinburgh Fringe for a week, and they booked like 2 shows before going. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do the rest of the time? Oh, we'll wing it. You're crazy.
Well, you say that though. That's how we start my show, by kind of talking to the audience and going, who's got a spreadsheet and who hasn't, who's kind of taken lead. Because we didn't have the time to market our show, so I would always be fascinated to be like, who is here and how did you find out about it? And did you just take a punt? If you did, I'm really pleased you did.
I think they did. Well, because they were the Guilty Feminists. Well, that's show number 1 in the bag. I think the Guilty Feminists was our first show,
right?
And I think that your show was then the second show. I think, we'll stick around at Pleasance and we'll go there.
That's so lovely of them. Thank you.
So you mentioned marketing and the fact that you almost don't have time to market it in any kind of way.
We were not in the brochure, people.
Not at all.
Not in the brochure.
So
we were on the app, which is great. On the app.
Oh, the app was super.
And actually, to be honest, more people probably use that now.
So apart from Guilty Feminist appearance, what else did you have to do? What else to put itself out there?
So we were kind of just jump at any opportunity we could. Rachel's got a lot of experience in this area, and we found a couple of promotional opportunities. We were on TalkSport Radio just before we went, which was interesting but actually, to be fair, they have a real interest in comedy. They'd had like Miranda Hart on before, and they were doing like a series. No, they write for comedy. The presenters, Andy and Paul. So there was a correlation, so we've done. We were basically trying to. My show was at 12:30, so we were going. What can we fit in around this? We did the airport stage. We did the. It's
an airport stage.
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called. It was so funny.
I'm guessing it's a stage that they have in the airport terminal.
Yeah, not in just outside it.
Oh, okay.
As they're coming, so as arrivals come out to see Edinburgh, they've got this little stage in the corner on the tarmac, and with like a Wembley-sized
is it the one where it
sound
says,
system.
Is it near where it says Edinburgh in big letters? There's a part when you come out of the arrivals.
I think
and it
possibly.
says Edinburgh in massive letters.
It was near the car park. No, it was near the tram. That's what I remember. I mean, literally, that is what the Edinburgh Fringe is. You're literally in, out. You can't even. We did that, which was hilarious. I was like, how's everybody feeling? And just hearing these like suitcase rolls. Guilty Feminist was extraordinary. I was terrified and then had such a good time. And then we also did the Royal Mile stages, which again, that's challenging in itself, because to break down a show and go, what works. We had one of those shows didn't go that well because we'd realised that like this taking the songs out of context, and it was like pouring with rain as well. So, but again, you learn doing those promo things. You learn, how to promote, how to construct your show into a new song, and that's stand-up comedy as well. You'd always be going around going, are we doing a 10-minute slot today, doing a 5-minute, doing a 20, and it's so important to keep your time. So that was
so how do you know how to break it down? How do you know how to go, you're doing 10 minutes, right? We need to do this show summarize this show in 10 minutes, or you now got to do it in 20 minutes. Where do you start in the breakdown of it? Like, how do you pick which bits to pick?
Well, luckily, I think, Kat and Rachel, we just all sit down and we just work through and just brainstorm. And you'd have to do it quickly. I think that's the thing with the Edinburgh Fringe. Everything, and that, again, was just part of this experience for me, which was going, you trusting yourself and going, you can do this. And I'm there the night before Guilty Feminist learning this new bit, and then I'm about to do the show again, which is the show in a different form, like a completely different intro. But also just say, Rachel is a mastermind, and she'd be emailing people out. I didn't have Instagram before this show, and I've had to learn how to do Instagram, and Rachel has helped me with that, and that's part of it as well. And that was nice too, because it became, I now look back on it, and because if you archive it and go, you can kind of see the behind the scenes throughout. And
you mentioned about panicking, and with Edinburgh you don't get a chance to panic. I'm trying to think of an analogy that's like that. You have to do it, and you have to do it now. You don't have a chance to even think about it.
And you have to do it for a long time.
Yeah.
And I think that's really key as well, because you have to go out there as a performer and adapt to all sorts of different audiences, all sorts of especially with comedy, like where things land and where things don't. And it's, kind of like a sport in a way. And so, and I think that therefore, you have to, every, kind of show that wasn't, like we'd have shows that would be like, yeah, woo, and every shows that were like, yeah, thank you very much. And you have to go like, okay, so every single one of them is a learning curve.
And so what was the general feedback from the show?
The general feedback, well, in the loveliest, I'd have people coming up to me and being like, this was a show I didn't know I needed to see, and I really did, and people really resonating. That was that was a comment that got, like, that it really resonated, and the kind of people saying it was brave, which is interesting. I think there's a whole conversation in that in itself, because it's just it was, and for me, to have that connection with people was lovely. There was also interesting, I was doing a lot of kind of taboo things, so I'd sing a song about my body hair, and my hairy vag and like things like that, where you'd be really interesting to see if audience would go with it, and whether you might lose them, and like how you could bring them back. So like as a performer, and like kind of telling these stories, which for me again was quite but you get people going, oh my god, she's not going to sing about that, oh my god, she's going to sing about that. And I'm glad I put myself through, I'm glad I took a chance on that, because I could so easily have not done. And I think I'll tell you what I did do in terms of influences. There's a show called Broad City.
Yeah.
You know it?
Yeah.
Absolutely love it, and I think I would watch that every morning.
As like sort of like your
to gear me up.
Yeah, but it's like your warm-up song almost. It's an episode of Broad City almost.
Just being like, they've got my back no matter what. Like even if audiences are a bit like, what? I just feel like they'd love it.
And so doing all those performances and doing them and seeing all those responses to different types of songs, do you now feel like you developed as a performer, or like you've developed like a more of an act, like you have now an act that you can now think, oh, this could be now my thing?
Yeah, I think definitely. I had some real wobbles before we went in terms of like, because I knew I loved doing the songs. I've always done that, and I knew that. But the in between the songs, I really didn't know if I could do it, because I'd done a lot of character comedy, and I'd done minimal comedy as myself, and my producer was really pushing for me to be me, and to kind of to get out that energy that she sees in kind of me in day-to-day life, and just being fun with my friends. And so I think the main thing I learned is that that kind of, I was so tempted to kind of construct it so I wouldn't have to do that. But I'm really glad I did, and I do think that actually it's done wonders for my self-esteem, and will also benefit my playing other people as well, because I think one thing I've really learned about acting is that like you have to get in touch with yourself first. And I think I would be so tempted to just run away from me and be like, oh, I want to be this person and I want to be that person, and kind of to actually stand in front of a group of people. And also I constructed it so I would chat to the audience as they came in. I didn't wait behind any wings, I didn't wait to come out, I was there immediately, and I got to know everybody, and that relaxed me so much. And I'd love to keep doing it even if we change venues, but that I think for the first time I was able to kind of run the room in a way and go, like, I know that I'm going to have more fun doing it in that way, but needing that team support and those friends to go, I believe in you, Jen. I believe you can do that. And again, like, that's why I encourage people to find, their tribe of people who want to bring out the best in them.
So what made it less nerve-wracking by greeting people? What takes the fear out of the room then?
For me, it then feels like our show today, and it feels like I get all I'd be doing is going, how are you, like, how's your fringe going, have a bit of a laugh, bit of a chill, and I expected to get more hostile reactions than I did. I expected people to be like,
no.
Why? No, or like people, because you get a lot of people going, I hate audience interaction. Like and I totally respect that and understand it. And I'd always be like, this isn't that. Like with their shows that started, I promise, like, I'm just here with you. I'm going to sit down if there's a spare chair, which there often is in Edinburgh. So I guess for me, then when I got up to start the show, I felt that, we're going to be going on this ride together. I talk to the audience as well. I don't look above heads. I'm very, with people. Luckily in my venue I can see faces, and I liked that. So maybe, that was just a way of me going, it's not about me and them. I don't have to like summon something up. My movement director was really great with that, who jumped on board as well at the last minute and just saying, there's energy all right. You don't have to summon up all this, like, you go back to do this thing. There's people around you. There's energy in the wall. It's all there for you. And I think it would make me present in the room.
Because you're at the Pleasance Courtyard as well. It's a very small very small little venue. Did you get a chance to see much other comedy when you was at the Fringe generally?
I did. Obviously, in that first week, it was really intense, and I wanted to see more than I saw. But yeah, with the Pleasance passes as well, I saw some amazing stuff. You know, some of the. I saw the LOL Word, which is an amazing queer comedy night. That wasn't at the Pleasance though. Were you talking about the Pleasant?
Anyway, yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, we made sure. Therefore, like after that first week, we were like, and actually. I remember being a bit hesitant again and being like, oh, I've got to knuckle down. And my director said, I've got to go home and relax. My director said, trust me, go and see a show. And we went to see Sarah Keyworth.
Yep.
Amazing. And it's the most relaxing thing you can do at Edinburgh, actually, I think, to go and see other people's shows, because you then realise how you're not... Yeah, and that you're not alone, and that there's a whole bunch of people, and I think the more we can lean into that, like the more you're going to a show and being like, yeah, that person's just putting themselves out there, I'm really enjoying it, so why wouldn't I put myself out there in the same way and do it? And I think it's just a lovely solidarity thing. So yeah, I saw some great, talent is just enormous.
And I'm always curious about venue choices at Edinburgh generally.
Yeah.
And I'm always interested to see that certain venues are kind of known for certain types of comedy, and then also that certain venues might have more appeal to others. Was there any venues that you went to and you thought, oh, this is pretty nice, I could do a show here, definitely?
Yeah, I did. There was one in particular. I got asked to compare the Musical Comedy Guide, which is a great resource for publicising musical comedy, and it's Dave who runs it. He's fab. And yeah, it was. Where was it? Oh no, Jenny Bede was in there as well. I missed her show, unfortunately. But it's very beautifully lit theatrical space. That's annoying. Can you add it in later?
Yeah, I can do.
Is it a Monkey Barrel?
Monkey Barrel Monkey Barrel's on a street with 4 very, very narrow uphill streets.
Mine was one where you had to go off the street and then go down some stairs, and it was on the left.
Down some stairs and
it's
on the
really
left.
near. It's really near the main big green square. Oh, it's near one of the.
Gilded Balloon.
It must be a Gilded Balloon one. But you do, and also I saw one I saw a Monkey Barrel one on the Free Fringe that great comedy act. What are they called? Miss Lee. Please don't include me being like, what are they called? Last Party, Secret House Party,
okay.
Secret Top House Party. They're an amazing comedy duo, and that was like in this really like beautifully lit tunnel cave place. It was one of the Monkey Barrel ones. But you don't have time to learn all the names. You're just stumbling around like a lost performer.
In our Debrief Fringe episode, we learned, and I learned from my own mistake on this, is that there are, I think that the big 4 are Pleasance, Monkey Barrel, Stand, Gilded Balloon. Oh, and then there's assembly halls and assembly rooms.
Yeah.
But that isn't just one place. That is so many different things. So there's Pleasance Courtyard, and then there's like Pleasance something else as well. Oh, there's the Pleasance Dome.
Yeah.
And then you've got the assembly halls. It's nowhere near the assembly rooms. And I did a spreadsheet. I made a spreadsheet and I made a walking guide. So
well done.
So if
that is prep.
So if you're going from A to here, and then it's like, it's 20 minutes, or this is 25 minutes, this is 15 minutes, and I fooled myself. Because I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I'm seeing Emmy Blotnick at Underbelly.
Yeah.
And then I've got Ed Byrne at assembly rooms. Oh, they're only 5 minutes apart. Wrong one. You assembly hall at the very top end. And it was one of the days where it absolutely hammered it down, and I had 5 minutes to get there, and I thought, I'm not going to get there. I'm just going to go home. I'm just done now.
That is but then, that is the ambition of any audience member, and you have to be aware of that as a performer, actually. I think to know that people are coming in and they gotta go at the end, like you are one in a schedule, and like kind of sticking to that time. Our show got longer because I got more comfortable kind of riffing off the audience, so we'd have to be really wary about that. But we did that as well. We went to the wrong venue once, and we were just like, please, it must be in there. They were like, nope, 10-minute walk.
So you mentioned about being able to be yourself between songs. If you weren't being yourself between songs, what characters would you be? Or would you be one character throughout, do you think?
Well, there are a few characters in it. I mean, there's obviously characters in the songs because they all echo different worlds, but I had 3 characters, like my inner good girl voice is very like a Mallory Towers. We called her Mallory in the end. Mallory. Very Mallory Towers, like telling me basically as I'm starting to head into the bodily functions, they're being like, don't do it, Jennifer, no, you mustn't do it. And then I had my inner critical voice, which is like this kind of riff off W1A and like Fee, like my PR guru, be like, Jen, no, like what are you doing? Like don't do that. And then who was my other one? Oh, Ready Jenny, which is kind of me, because we're talking about me, you know, letting go of this kind of ready for anything, ready Jenny, she's got to do this, got to do that, I'm so on the ball, ready for anything that life throw at me. And you know, life is so unpredictable that you have to be flexible in that. And I think so being able to stand on stage honestly as me, from being Ready Jenny at the end and like gradually just being more and more myself, and I was able to stand with silence, which, you know, it's so powerful on stage, and sit in that. And so again, you know, trusting that journey, things that I'd be scared to do before.
And so that kind of not hiding too much behind a character, I suppose that gives you more confidence in yourself as a performer, as like you being you.
I think so, and I think that's just where I needed to go in my personal journey and professional. I think I needed to lean in to something that I was running from and avoiding. I needed to lean in and trust that I could deliver as myself, and it'll be really interesting to see how that develops, you know, if doing the show again, because we're definitely gonna you know, there's all of us have seen bits in the show that we're like, oh, you know, that could be better in this, so it'd be interesting to see where I lean into. I'm very into the songs, and I really want to maybe develop that for kind of like online as well. That was where I was heading. I was never going to do a one-person show, but I have to say, you know, I miss that. Was such a come down coming, you know, every day I'd be standing out and connecting with like this group of people, you know, for such a long time. That kind of felt like a really weird disconnect when I came home.
And then speaking of sort of like come downs, post Edinburgh Fringe, what was that feeling like? So it's like, it's done, thank you, good night, and then you obviously got to pack up and come back to London.
Well, I went straight up Arthur's Seat immediately after my first show, because I was staying near it, and we hadn't factored that in, even though I'd been told it's very good to go and have a walk in nature. Didn't do it.
Oh no, well, I'll be honest, the 2 years I've gone, I'm like, I'm going to go up Arthur's Seat, and I never did. I did it this year.
You did?
I did this year.
Did you like it?
It's impressive.
It is impressive.
But it's too far.
Too far?
It's too far. It's too high.
It's treacherous,
It's
man.
really, yeah.
It is treacherous.
Yeah.
There's no help. I kind of loved it. I'd be seeing these like parents with like babies like on their shoulders, like clambering down all these rocks. There's no set path, and it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was like, I needed to do that, and that was very important. I did it on my own. It was and I could have a moment. And then, yeah, I think the come down has been interesting. Again, I was very prepped. My director's done Edinburgh many times, and she said, I still haven't seen her. We're going to see each other this week as a kind of like debrief. But she said it is weird and it is tough. And I think I kind of couldn't switch off from that go energy for a while, and then I kind of had a little crash. Yeah. And I think again, it's just really important to talk about it and to really, again, like we were saying before about, you know, the financial aspect and the emotional aspect and everything, and just being like, no matter what happened, you know, you got to see it as a success, that you went out there and did that thing. And I think, you know, that is something that I've been talking to other people coming back from Edinburgh and going, you know, that is something we've got to be so proud of, and so and be honest about how it affects you when it comes home, because it does.
And so what's next?
What's next? Next is hopefully doing the show again. As I said, we're in talks, and so that fingers crossed will be happening within the year, either in London or in a rural touring aspect. Fingers crossed. I'm doing a Friends play at the end of the year, a kind of spoof on American teen movies coming to the UK. It's called Fucking Bring It On, Lads, and it's written by the amazing Beth Johnston. I'm doing back to writing with Dom. I've got probably my most ambitious song idea yet that I'm trying to make work in my head at the moment, and yeah, just back to the hustle, back to the grind. That's what it's all about, isn't it? These kind of this artistic lifestyle is back to kind of making it work and building that community and trying to make great things happen.
Jen, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ben.
Thank you very much to Jen for this chat, and also thanks to the Royal Festival Hall for the recording space. The missing show name was also Ladylikes with Top Secret House Party. That was the missing show that we were talking about. And you can hear Jen's podcast. Thank you for sharing on all good podcasting platforms. And you can follow her on Instagram, JenniferTyler10. So, what have we learnt? We've learned that a pure O episode is when you have a thought that you get stuck on. It's the same O as from OCD. Creativity is a great fixer for mental health. Have a great team around you is key for Edinburgh, and it's easier to change things as you go with a one-person show. The Fringe is a marathon, and every show is a learning curve, and always talk about it as a success because you did it. Arthur's seat is treacherous, and everybody's bladders are different.